Time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people. Reminding you all to make your MAGA protest visible by putting a pickle on a porch, taking a picture of it, and sending it to us at elsieslittlepickles@gmail.com. With that being said, we have, again, a full pickle barrel. How did your liver transplant go, Kiefer?
Better than the baboon it came from.
Poor baboon. So it turns out,
as a complication, I do get baboon ass more frequently.
Turns out it wasn't a liver transplant. Turns out it was a
sphincter transplant.
It was a sphincter transplant.
By way of phone.
Well, we're glad to have you back. We missed you, buddy. And you know what? It would be easy for me to go off on this diatribe or that diatribe, but since we didn't have your wonderful company, the last one that me and Colton did,
it went great then.
Well,
surprisingly, very little distraction.
The choo-choo stayed on the track.
Imagine that.
Yeah, we that's what we count on you for, is to take the choo-choo off the track. But with all of that being said, I take that choo-choo off the track as if Trump's administration was overseeing it. I just take it right off. Much like the helicopters the last 2 days. Jesus Christ.
2 of them.
Yeah, there were 2.
Unbelievable. What the fuck is going on with the fucking airlines and the helicopters? I mean, like, there's been what? 100?
Apparently, RFK has also been appointed head of the FAA.
And that's because I like to talk about things that are in the air.
The word wants me to break the planes.
I heard the perfect description of his voice.
Yeah.
Seriously, I almost wet myself laughing hearing. And it came from Dana Carvey.
Okay.
The great Dana Carvey, who said,
love Dana.
RFK sounds exactly like someone who just took a bad hit of a joint.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
To me, you know what? His voice, I
just gotta say.
I have 2 comments on that. One, he has always reminded me of very early episode of SpongeBob, where SpongeBob and Patrick are going around selling chocolates, and they knock on this one door, and it's like this old worm in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate.
So
I always hated it.
So for my ear, and you won't get this one, Colton, but Kiefer will. To my ear, it was always as if Katharine Hepburn had deep-throated a vibrator while it was on. Right? Because it was always that.
Henry.
And speaking of voices, earlier today, and this is my only digression, and then we can get into it, I got reminded of, what's his name, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Some people think that I'm like not right in the head, but it turns out I kind of am. My favorite Bobcat, I don't even know if you know this. Did you know, Colton, that I did a Buddy's Pizza commercial doing Bobcat Goldthwait as the impression?
I feel like I remember you telling me that.
So I don't know how these people knew. Like, this is very early in my career. I never did impressions on stage, but I would do them in like the green rooms and stuff like that, just fucking around, having fun.
Yeah.
Right? So the impression that I did, they had me do several. I did Bill Cosby and I did Bobcat Goldthwait. They picked Bobcat Goldthwait as...
And Harry Carey.
Well, I do a pretty good Harry Carey too. Yeah. So all right. All right. We're going crazy here, but all right. So I went in.
I'm the one who takes it off the rail.
Yeah, I know. So, like, basically the Cosby one is, and now we're going to put the pudding pop up your pooper because that's the way I like to roll. And then these two, Bobcat was actually a joke that Bobcat did at the time when he was doing that voice. He goes, And so I'm in the hospital and I'm standing in front of the baby aquarium because my wife just had a baby. And I'm looking at the babies, and this person comes up and she goes, "Is that your baby?" I said, "No." "Is that your baby?" I said, "No." "Yeah, every baby looks like me. They're all bald and screaming their heads off."
I still call it a baby aquarium, by the way.
Yeah, I know you do. And then Harry Carey was done by a Chicago comedian, and this was his joke. Ken Severa, if I remember correctly. And I always loved this impression, but the problem is like a lot of his show was Harry Carey, but this part I loved, right? So Harry Carey announcing a ball game, and he's like, "The count is full. Sammy Salsa up at the plate. This pitch in the swing. Son of a bitch. Cubs suck." And then you go into Harry Carey on acid, which was hysterical, right? He's like, because his co-announcer was Steve. So he'd be like, "Holy cow, Steve, you got two heads. Why don't you sing us a duet?" So,
man, that guy was always sauced.
Oh my God, he was totally sauced. But the thing of it is that I never did impressions, and so the Bobcat one was the one that got me commercial. Anyways, I don't even know how we started on that. You brought that up.
Actually, it was my fault.
Was it
the Dana Carvey?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about voices, and I happened to get a Police Academy clip earlier today.
They just don't make movies like that.
No. All right, enough fucking around. We missed you last episode dearly.
Yeah, you just need better aim.
And with that,
use two hands, goddammit.
With this full pickle barrel, here's Kiefer with the news.
Well, in news, we have the lawyer for the U of M protester, detained at airport after spring break trip with his family.
Mm-hmm. Yep, phone seized and everything.
Yes. Proof that the administration is going
a lot too far. Actually, I hear that they're actually starting to scrub social media pages of college students that are from out of country, looking for anti-Israeli points of view. People don't realize.
We're the United States of Israel at this point.
Yeah.
Did you see the way Trump treated Netanyahu?
Do you mean Netanyahu?
Reads this. Yeah. I was trying to be funny.
Netanyahu. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, he pushes in his chair because Trump is Netanyahu's bitch.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think that the thing, if I'm not mistaken, too, the protester, I can't think of his name now, but he was like
Mahmoud Khalil.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was at Columbia, and the Supreme Court just ruled that his deportation is
legal,
constitutional.
Yeah,
which is
bullshit
because he's a legal citizen.
Yeah, and what's going to end up happening because of that decision opens up the door for Trump administration to just start disappearing fucking regular citizens, like natural born American citizens.
Yeah, the three of us are fucked.
Probably.
Anyone in the Trump admin is listening, you know our names, just pull off the Band-Aid, please.
You know what? Fuck those
just
bitches.
One of us that isn't home.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to swing that RV around. You'll have to swing that RV around so that we can fucking cuddle up with you, you furry little freak.
I'm like 2 hours out of Canada. In the woods.
Yeah. It's getting to the point where, I mean, we joke about it, but there is this aspect that is lost in the distraction, which is the Trump fucking game show. And that's the thing that I keep trying to warn people about. It's not what you see in the news that you necessarily have to worry about, especially mainstream news, because they're distracted by the shiny objects that he throws out.
It's a ball in a cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a 3-card Monty. It's a ball in a cup.
Yes.
Like that's exactly what this is.
And the fucking part of it that sucks for most people is they don't realize that that ball, the cup is going over the edge of the table. Somebody's catching that ball, waiting for the next cup to come around and putting the ball in that cup. It is very much a 3-card Monty. And in the course of this, what's happening is, at some point, I believe, he's going to try to figure out a way to use either the Insurrection Act, or he's going to try to figure out a way to use martial law so that
that is all coming.
I believe it too. I think that is coming.
The comprehensive report on the state of the border is due on the 20th of April, which
is anyone know what that is?
Birthday.
Hitler's birthday.
It's Hitler's birthday. It's Elon's favorite day because he likes to play the edgy meme lord.
Yeah.
I have become meme.
Your impressions are getting good.
I like to think that they're good. I'm still working out Elon, but
Elon's got those quirky.
You know what it is with Elon? You got to work in just a hair of Paul McCartney. Just a hair of Paul McCartney. Seriously.
Well, it's a weird one for me because white South Africans have like 60% of a British accent and the rest is a Dutch accent. Yeah. But then when you also throw on top of it for Elon, the pauses and the
right.
Yeah. When you have to work all of that in at the same time, it's a challenging one. Whereas Trump, it's just loud. It's New York. It's Trump.
It's huge.
It's huge.
See, we'll give you a month to figure out Elon, and we won't hold you accountable until then. But 1 month from now, motherfucker, you better have that shit figured.
Oh, I'll work on it.
In other news, some interesting news. Scientists say they have resurrected the dire wolf.
Actually, that's a fascinating story because I actually listened to the CEO of the company.
Yeah, it is fascinating, but technically they didn't bring back a dire wolf.
Well, hold on.
Correct.
Hold on. I actually listened to the full interview on Rogan. I know how you feel about Rogan. This isn't about Rogan. This is about this motherfucker. The guy that runs the company, I was actually very impressed by. So much so that, like, if I were somebody that had large amounts of money, I would invest in what he's doing. And I'll tell you why.
You got to be careful with that because you were on board with Elon for a while too.
Well, I didn't say that I was smart. I never said I was fucking smart.
I'm just, hey, we learn from experience. We're brewers.
Yeah, we, sometimes you got to burn your hand on the stove to realize that fucking thing's hot. But the thing of it is that he was so collected and so well spoken, and to that point, all right. Well, it's not really a dire wolf. Okay, well, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, is it a fucking duck? It's kind of the
and
thing.
To be fair, they're just puppies right now, so maybe they, end up being, 6-foot beasts.
Well, here's the thing, all right? They were able to, on that, I think they were able to get it to 99.6, if I remember correctly, % of the DNA. Like, they were able to really gather and from like 2 or 3 different samples of DNA, they were able to, and one sample of the DNA was like 75,000 years old, and one sample of the DNA was like 12,000 or something like that. Anyway, the point being, they had this very vast difference in DNA age. And what was really cool about this, and I recommend anyone who can, if you have the time, listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with this guy because it was fascinating. So what this guy was basically saying is I've run into that before, where, well, it's not really a dire wolf. Well, what would it take to convince you that it was? What would it take you to prove to me that it wasn't, right? And he went through a pretty good explanation of it. I'm not going to do it justice because this is something I listened to like 4 days ago or whatever. So I'm not going to be able to do it justice. But the point being, I get where people come from when they say, well, when you start doing, you're creating animals out of DNA. rather than the regular animal. Now, one of his arguments was this, talking about the red fox, right? So the red fox in North Carolina, there's only like 15 of those fuckers left, right?
Mm.
However, in Louisiana, there's a fox that is actually genetically more pure bred red fox than the red fox. And his argument was, over the course of time, just like with humans, there's interbreeding.
Yeah.
So had the dire wolf not gone extinct,
it probably would have diluted the gene pool a little.
It would have diluted it far more, in his opinion, and at least this was my takeaway. The gene pool would have been diluted far more if the dire wolf had never gone extinct than it was with this sampling.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? So yeah. I thought, God damn, that's a good fucking point. Because just like Neanderthals went extinct because they interbred with humans, the same thing could have happened to the dire wolf, or the dire wolf could have been the predominant one, but it still would have interbred with other fucking wolves. What the fuck are you giggling
at?
He's
giggling.
Oh my God. As soon as I see you giggling like that, I'm like, I'm fucked.
You ever think like Homo sapiens back there were just, don't want to introduce the guys to my girlfriend.
Something about the broad shoulders and unibrow. I think I'm going to get clowned on this one.
I got another one. I got to intervene. All right, you want to talk about taking... So this one, this podcast, I didn't actually prepare, and it's more Kiefer that prepared it. So I'm going to be the motherfucker that keeps taking it off the choo-choo tracks, right? I'm having a conversation today.
Getting back to the wolf really quick.
Okay.
So what you're saying here, it's a little less dire wolf and more like alarming wolf. It's an atrocious wolf.
Yeah, it's atrocious. Well, no, see, that's the thing is I think that what he said made sense, because if you're taking a DNA sample from something that's 75,000 years old and another sample from something, and again, I can't remember this. I know the 75,000 was accurate, 72 or 75. And the other one, I'm not sure.
Probably about 12.
I think it's about 12. And, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's 75 and 12. You get to see a vast period of time.
And there's significant variation just between those two.
No, there wasn't actually a whole lot of variation. I mean, there was variation, but
I'm talking like a statistically significant amount, not necessarily like, oh, this is a different animal.
Yes, exactly. Okay, yes, I would agree with you on that, based again on what this guy said. But what was interesting about it is that he made a really good point with this. Is like, you have 75,000, 12,000. That's a lot of time for variance. But the things that were the same stuck. And they stuck for a reason. And that's what we went with. So they went with the things that stuck from 75,000 years ago and the things that went from 12,000 years ago. And they considered that to be the most accurate representation of what this is.
That's fair. I can appreciate
my golden retriever, Romeo, wants to know if the wolf is hot.
Did you see the pictures? Did you see the video?
There's some cuties.
They're fucking gorgeous. They're gorgeous animals.
I just have to point out two things with this topic. One, I really want to be careful that we don't encounter a Jurassic Park situation.
Actually, he addressed that.
Just because you could, you didn't ask if you should.
Exactly. But then also, we were talking about Neanderthals, and have either of you heard of the uncanny valley?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's that as something looks more and more similar to a human, it is cute to a point, and then right before it looks fully human, there's a huge sharp drop-off to where it looks unsettling. That's what happens with clowns and dolls and,
me in the morning.
Take your pick.
Oh, yeah, definitely you in the morning. God damn, talk about waking a sleeping bear. Fuck.
Neanderthals, it's proposed, and Denisovans and all the other like subbreeds of human that didn't make it to modern day, like Homo sapiens sapien, which is us. It's theorized that the uncanny valley is a biological and evolutionary response to those other breeds of human.
That makes total sense.
That my last words in life will probably be, "Who's your cute little wolf?"
Whether it's a dire wolf or not.
It doesn't matter. As long as he gets to go, oh shit.
Exactly. I prefer.
Let me rub your tummy.
Yes. And another word.
Jesus Christ, this is going all over the place. I love it. You know why I love it? Hold on. You know why I love it? You know why I love it? Is because after all the fucking depressing political news that we've had to deal with lately, it's good to have just a fun show.
A new poll by Newsweek, I think, shows that if there is an election allowing Donald Trump to run for a third term, that if Barack Obama ran against him, he would lose miserably.
No, I don't doubt that. And here we are back to political news.
Yeah, which is precisely why Trump is trying to stack the whole third term thing in his favor and against Obama, because Obama ran. He ran twice. He won twice. He was president twice. In a row.
Well, here, let me pull this up real quick. There was actually the Nevada election chief said that Trump's election order puts democracy at risk. So the thing of it is that, I'm not going to read the article, but right now on the podcast, but the point being, he is hinting towards that. Mm-hmm. The Republicans have done everything they could and failed to put forward a bill that would allow that, but would not allow Obama to run. So the way that the phrasing or the wording in the bill was, you cannot run for a third term if you did 2 terms already. But if there was consecutively. But if there was a break, so you were in office, you weren't in office, and you're in office again, you get to have that third term. I don't think the American people will go for that. Under any circumstance. And at that point, if he did do that, if the Republicans did that, I think a couple things would happen. One, the only way that you would have any Republicans in office is because they weren't up for election that year. And the only way that he would win would be as if it was completely and totally rigged. I don't think America will do that.
Something I would like to point out about the whole third term discussion, which is the 22nd Amendment technically on paper is anti-democratic, because they only put it in because FDR clean sweeped 4 elections in a row, right? That's what the people wanted. That's what they were electing, right? So on paper, it is an undemocratic principle in our Constitution, but by having that there, it allows democracy to better flourish.
Right.
That's the problem. So on paper, it's undemocratic, but in practice, it secures democracy.
Exactly. And it's very, very clear. There's not a lot. There's really no wiggle room in that. There's just not. There's no wiggle room. Fuck.
No, it's very cut and dry. If you serve 2 terms, you're done.
You're done. And the language in that is very, very clipped and cut and dry. So I don't, I honestly, I don't think that that's something that we have to worry about yet. I could see that being something we have to worry about.
Excuse me, I've had way too much strong coffee.
Okay.
So that is the issue here.
Gotcha.
Have at it.
I made 8 cups of coffee, but apparently used 16 cups of coffee's worth of
shit.
Coffee.
Jesus.
That's why
then it turns out that it wasn't actually 8 cups of water, but rather 6.
Oh shit. That's why you're all fucking dancing.
What was it, fucking sludge?
It had
pretty close. I called it rocket.
I drink my coffee with a spoon.
I drink my coffee with an IV drip.
Oh, shit. All right. Moving on.
All right. I'm going to start hitting you with some good news sprinkled into the oh my God news.
Oh, okay. Please help me.
Little bit of good news. A double lung transplant recipient helps students now make comfort blankets for organ donor families.
A double lung transplant?
Yeah.
So there's
Which,
hope.
ironically, I guess, full transparency, I know someone who has had a double lung transplant.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was like...
She, I think, also just recently had a heart transplant.
Really?
We're running towards a ship of Theseus problem here. How many parts can you replace and it's still the same ship?
I think I should stop being the one that plans these. This is much more fun.
Also in other news, ingredient found in all mushrooms can reprogram immune cells to fight deadly flu infections.
Mushrooms are fucking incredible.
They are amazing. People do not, first and foremost, I don't think people realize like mushrooms, the way that they grow and even like trees and grass and all that shit.
The fact that they'll pop up in a colony for like 2 days and then just recede back into the ground until the conditions are right again.
Right. Like these fucking little spore monsters, they communicate with each other. There's so many amazing things that mushrooms do, including make you hallucinate.
I have a $20 trivia about mushrooms.
All right.
Did you know that the greater Tokyo area in Japan, their underground rail was designed by fungus?
No.
So essentially what they did is they made a scale map. I don't know exactly how big, but probably large enough that they could, kind of see details. And at every node point that they wanted, like a train stop to be, they would place a piece of food. And then they released a fungus on the board. And over the course of the day, the fungus would try a path, and maybe that wasn't the most efficient path, and it found a different efficient path to that food, to the node that would eventually be a train stop. And by the next morning, they had a map of the most efficient layout for the underground.
Get the fuck out. Really?
And that's how they designed it.
Get the fuck out. That's fucking
now,
crazy.
Can we please do that with Amtrak? I'm not autistic, I swear, but I want fucking trains.
I do too. I wish we had high-speed rail. And there's no reason aside from lack of willingness.
And Elon holding up the project.
Well, yeah.
Because he said, I'm gonna make the high-speed rail in LA. And 10 years, 12 years down the line, nothing.
Right. I mean, I get it. It's a big investment, but there's really no reason why we shouldn't have New York to LA in under 3 hours with high-speed rail.
Well, 3 hours is a bit much because
I'm not saying there's no stop.
Breakneck. You're talking breakneck speed at that.
Well, why not?
At least, like you get on the train at 6 a.m. and you're there by 6 p.m.
I'd be happy with that.
That's reasonable.
I'd be happy with that. But I mean, look, when you're talking maglev, right, and you're talking speeds upwards of 250 miles an hour, I haven't done the math on that, but whatever that breaks down to, if you don't have any stops between New York, well, let's say you only have 2 or 3
major city stops.
Well, let's say you have 2 or 3 stops, right? And let's say it goes straight across the country. So, like, if you're in Chicago, you're not getting a stop. If you're in Detroit, you're not getting a stop. But you can go down to, let's say, Louisville and hit a stop. That would be worth it, man. I mean, like, seriously, well, what are we doing?
So, New York to LA is 2,791 miles.
All right, so divide that by 250.
2,791 divided by 250. 11.164 hours.
All right, so there you go. You're right on the money. 12 hours.
Yeah, you get on the train at 6 a.m. You're there by 5:30 at night.
Well, and that's with no stops. So let's say you're there, you get on the train at 6:30 in the morning, and let's say you get there by 8 o'clock at night. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Especially with all these fucking planes and fucking helicopters falling out of the fucking sky.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled to be on a high-speed train.
What do we got next?
What'd you say?
I said, what do we got next?
You're right. All right, moving on.
Some time on the trains.
There's a story about an animal out of Egypt 47 million years ago called the Bestatodon.
Okay.
And
never heard of that.
They're finding skeletons of it, and it is described as a mix between a hyena and a cat.
I was really hoping you were going to say that's what the pyramids were made out of. Just the shell of this Egyptian mega turtle.
Let's bring this back around. Let's bring this back around to the direwolf guy, right? So when he got interested in that, the main scientist that everyone revered was talking about this, but was very, very interested in mastodons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to try to bring the mastodon back. But here's something that people don't realize, apparently. Mastodons were alive while they were building the pyramids.
Yeah, yes. there was a little enclave that got stranded on an island in northern Russia.
Oh, well, is it? Well, that was like, I know that
what is now northern Russia.
Okay, all right, that makes sense then. But that to me was fascinating because it's like you don't think about that. I mean, the way that they date the pyramids, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but the way they date the pyramids is like 2,500 years ago or something like that.
No, actually,
or 5,000. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
5,
oldest is like 5,000. Cleopatra is as far from us today as she was from the building of the first pyramids.
Right, but
history is very big and very small.
Exactly. So we actually did an episode on it, and it was like Cleopatra is closer to us. What was it? Cleopatra was closer to us than like she was to Ramses or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was it was one of those things where you go, get the fuck out.
She was closer to us than the building of the pyramids.
Yes. Brilliant.
Which is crazy. Like if she's the empress of Egypt, and
she was
she's
the last
looking
one,
at,
wasn't she? Was she the last one?
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that, but that's something we should look up.
Yeah. Well, either way, she was the empress of Egypt, and she was looking on ancient.
What was the question?
Was Cleopatra the last ruler of Egypt as an empire?
Yes.
Yeah. While Kiefer's looking that up, she was looking on the pyramids, and they were as ancient as us looking at Cleopatra.
Exactly.
She was, in fact, the last actual ruler of.
That's what I thought.
Technically, Cleopatra the 7th.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
After 7, I mean.
Be confused with 1 through 6. It's like Rocky 7. The last one, but nobody remembers.
The funny thing
it's like when they rebooted Rambo and they just called it Rambo.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Kirk Nolan, friend of the show, he used to do a bit about Cleopatra, and like in all of the things you hear, like Cleopatra movie and stuff like that, you saw like Elizabeth Taylor. You always see these beautiful women playing this part, and
no, she was homely.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Mark Anthony.
And the joke was, you won't catch this reference, Colton, but Kiefer will. He goes, she actually looked like Wheezy from the Jeffersons. Google that shit.
And I'm pretty sure then that Mark Anthony looked like George.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, I guess. But for some reason, she was able to get these Roman leaders fighting over that piece of ass. I don't know. Maybe that was the thing back then. It's kind of interesting because when you think about it, beauty has changed so much.
The thumb.
What's that?
She could move her thumb on the tip.
Oh, okay.
I call that Nintendo thumb.
Nintendo thumb.
Nintendo thumb technique.
But gotta move the joystick.
But if you think about it, I mean, beauty has changed drastically over the years of what was, thought to
Baby, get over here and thumb wrestle my dick.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
Oh,
and you won. So, but I mean, seriously, if you think about it, beauty has changed. Like
I mean, skinny being a prerequisite of beauty, like standard,
today,
mainstream beauty. That's a very modern thing.
Very modern, because even if you look at
even in the 50s,
well, Marilyn Monroe, she was very full figured,
size 14.
Yeah, she was very full figured. And if you look at like all of the paintings and stuff like that. At any museum, they're always full-figured women, and
you can see the fupa on the statues, on the marble statues.
You really can, and the fupa.
Baby, how did you get so hot? Oh, I haven't eaten since fall.
Yeah, but now that's now. But if you look back, I think it's a more realistic version of it. The reasoning for it was different because it was thought, oh, you're fat. That means you have money for food.
Yeah.
Well, and that's hot.
You could carry a kid.
Yeah, and you could carry a kid, and like all these
birthing hips.
Well, yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of interesting because now, what's considered hot, like since the 90s, has been this heroin chic fucking look where, it's like, you stick your dick in and you can fucking,
She's so skinny.
You can see
How does she know if she has a stomach ache or a backache?
Well, as Theo Vaughn very eloquently put it, now the trend is ribs and dick.
Well, if that's what he's into.
Well, to each his own.
And now for some bad news.
Oh, fuck.
My favorite.
Reportedly, Trump has sent a U.S. warship and F-35s after Houthis blitz damaging the USS Truman.
Oh, I can one-up that.
He's sending...
We're prepping B-2 stealth bombers for Iran.
And he's sending a large military unit to the Panama Canal.
Oh, I have heard that there's also a ship off of the coast of Greenland.
That I don't doubt. I didn't hear that one, but I don't doubt that.
And they just fired the head of the Navy or military, whatever.
No, it was Space Force that I believe.
Just yesterday.
Yeah, in Greenland. Yeah, I believe it was
Space.
I believe
it was Space Force doing in Greenland.
I have no idea.
They're closer to space. They're on top of the world.
They are. They're north. But all right. So here's another little creepy fucking detail, and I'd have to look it up to see who the person was. But there's let me pull it up here real quick. Trump loyalist sports troubling Trump golden bust lapel pin makes it easier to recognize cult members, right?
I saw that.
You did see that, okay. So
and the evangelicals don't even realize that they're literally worshiping a golden calf.
Yeah. Like, what does it take?
It's because just like their God, he hates the same people.
I think it's more to do with they've never actually read their own scripture because they can't really read that well.
That's part of it. Too many.
They just believe whatever their pastor tells them. And their pastor tells them that Trump is the second coming of Christ.
So
and that goes back to why Christianity grew so large, is because at one point in time it was punishable by death to own a Bible if you were not clergy, because then
that reminds me very strongly of the newscaster from V for Vendetta.
That was a great movie.
Incredible movie. But it reminds me of the reporter that has a secret room with a Quran in it, and he gets discovered having a Quran and gets executed by the state.
Right.
Correct.
So the thing that I think is interesting about all this is the fact that, well, let's back up a minute. I don't like calling MAGA supporters stupid. I don't like it. It's true. I just don't like it. Okay? And it's not
that they're stupid people, it's that they're doing stupid actions.
Exactly. And they're making their decisions based on false realities. And the false realities are being pitched by the game show host, which is Trump. And that's why, like, when you look at the tariffs as an example, this 90
his Fox TV news host.
Well,
it's the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah. But beyond that, when you look at this 90-day hold on the tariffs, what makes
tariffs are manly as hell, actually.
Well, what makes anyone think that he's going to want this episode of drama to end in 90 days? So
no, he wants a continuing
always
crisis.
90 days? Why?
I don't know.
90 days here, 90 days.
He's a fascist, and he wants a continuous, whether he knows it or not, he's a fascist, and he wants a continual cycle of manufactured crises so that he can swoop in and save the day, air quotes.
Yeah, but he manufactures those crises, and then, like
TikTok.
Well, on the last episode with me and you, Colton, we were talking about how it's the fireman who's the arsonist who puts out the fire, but doesn't realize it's still burning in the basement.
No, the fireman still realizes it's burning in the basement.
Doesn't fucking care.
Do it.
Yeah. So the thing that I think people need to like kind of wake up to is the fact that
the call is coming from inside the house.
Yes. Yes. Not just that, but the idea that you're talking about somebody who spent a lot of time in media. He knows how to get eyeballs on the TV, and he knows how to distract. Like people say, well, Trump's stupid. I don't think he's stupid. I think he's actually really, really smart, but he's really smart in two areas. One is manipulation and the idea of creating drama that gathers eyeballs through the press. But the other thing he's really good at is changing the subject so that you forget about what it was that you came to the party pissed about, and you leave the party pissed about something completely different. And in the meantime,
more frequently, you leave the party confused, but thinking, wow, Trump really had a lot to say about these things. He probably knows what's best.
And I think that we have a country of so many people that are just looking for leadership. You know what I mean? Like, the fact of the matter is that a cult is easily started by a charismatic person who gives off the vibe of I'm a leader who knows better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have here with Trump, is this idea of essentially MAGA is a cult of personality. And
with the addition of, the Orwellian / Umberto Eco right think and wrong think.
Yes. Yeah. And it gets to that point of that lapel pin that's a golden bust of Trump's head. It worries me that we're in a situation where you're starting to see the loyalty test, not just in cabinet meetings where they have to slobber on his cock before they actually get to the point of what they're there for. And we saw that with these last 3 televised cabinet meetings. But more importantly, it gets to the point of how do these people who under any other circumstance would be respectable individuals and would tell you, oh, go fuck yourself if they disagreed with you, all of a sudden just slobbering all over him like he's the dear leader. And they do it maybe especially because there were TV cameras there.
Yeah.
That to me is troubling. You know what I mean? Like,
either of you guys think that Marco Rubio cries when he comes?
I'm such a fan.
I'm little Marco.
I was watching
my wife.
I was watching that cabinet meeting. What was that, yesterday, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
I was watching it, and Ashley was sitting next to me, and I just go, man, Marco Rubio looks like he's never experienced joy in his life.
No.
Like,
the only other
he smiled at one point, and I was like, that's the smile of a broken man.
Yeah. And if you look, the look on his face when Zelensky and J.D. Vance went toe-to-toe, you haven't said thank you. You haven't said thank you. The same look was on Rubio's face then. Right? It was the same defeated, I just have to try to not.
What am I doing here?
Yeah. Like I disagree with Marco Rubio on a ton of policy things.
I think he knows better. Quite honestly,
that's my point.
He knows better.
That's exactly my point. I don't think Marco Rubio is a person who truly believes in the Trump theory of how to do things. I really don't. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that I think that Rubio despises Trump, and the only reason he took the position that he did was because he thought maybe I can be a bit of a guardrail, and now he's realized I don't have a fucking shot at that.
No.
He's just not strong enough to go up against the
And
Trump.
also at this point, if you're not enabling, you're kicked out. Like,
yeah,
that hasn't happened quite yet.
Oh, it's coming.
But yeah.
And the reason it hasn't happened yet, it goes back to the reason why you still have walls. It goes to the reason why you have a lot of these people is that he's not willing to kick them to the curb yet because it's too soon in his presidency to give the news coverage of this negative event. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, just his first term, he basically replaced everyone but his vice president by the end of his first term.
And he would have done that if he could have.
Yeah. So, like, I mean,
and by the end of it,
it's not for lack of wanting, I guess is my point.
Right. And you got to keep in mind that he also, by the end of that term, was willing to let Mike Pence get hung by the mob.
Yeah.
So people need to understand, like, yeah, you can appreciate his humor because he is funny. Like, he would be a better stand-up comic than he is president by far. But you have to understand.
He knows how to work a crowd.
He knows how to work a fucking crowd. He knows how to make. He's very good at that stuff. He's very good at controlling an audience. But the problem that you run into is there's this darker side, and it goes back. I saw he was talking about the fact that he thinks getting revenge is good, and I forget what the interview was. I forget who he was being interviewed by, but it was like 92.
Was that the one where he was talking about, like, if I had my way, like, all the Democrats that stepped to me, this was way media that stepped to me.
No, this was back in the 90s. So
gotcha.
So that's my point is this vindictiveness that he has, this need for retribution. This goes back way deep in his history. And I don't think anyone in government or really any of his supporters understand, like, that's not a good quality to have in the leader of the free world.
No.
So, I mean, like,
it's almost even a threat to the free world.
Well, some might think that. You know what I mean? And you can see that with the tariffs even. The only reason he backed off on the tariffs is because the bond market, that's really, I mean, he even admitted that basically it was the bond market because as a realtor.
He was talking about, like, these two guys, I forget who they were, but they were multi-billionaires in the Oval Office. He was like, they made a lot of money.
Well, yeah, he did do that, which gives you the feeling of insider trading, and I don't know if they'll ever be able to prove that. But the fact of the matter is that morning he said this would be a good time to buy and make a lot of money, invest in a stock market or whatever the fucking tweet was, or Truth Social. But beyond that, there's a level of, if I feel like you have wronged me, even if you by anyone else's judgment did not, but I feel like you did, I'm going to do everything I can.
You're fired.
To fuck you.
Yep.
You know, and I don't think that that's the temperament you want in the most powerful person in the world.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think that that's a good quality right there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm any better. All right. I'm not saying that I don't feel that way a lot of times too, but I'm not the fucking president.
Act on it.
I'm not. Well, even if I did, I'm not the fucking president.
Right.
I'm not the leader of the free world. So there is a reason to feel like you need a pause on that bullshit to do the job properly. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, what ended up happening was he did become a panicking because he saw the bond markets, and he understands the bond markets as a real estate developer. That's what he counts on, right? Is the bond markets. And when he saw those taking a fucking big old shit, that's when he went, okay, I need to put a pause on this. So look, you could have 75 countries saying we want to talk to you about negotiations, but no one has negotiated yet. So there was no real reason for him to pause it, aside from the fact that the bond market was showing him, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care about the stock market, but the bond market, which is something that affects his real estate businesses, that he did care about. So when it did hit home for him, that's when he backed away. And that should tell you what kind of man he is. He's the type of man where
he'll rat fuck you until it hurts his bottom line.
Or his balls. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, he has balls?
No, well, they're tiny like his hands, but they're there. So, anyways, next story.
In this story, Fray Tormenta was a masked wrestler that delighted crowds in Mexico's lucha libre circuit for years. From 1977 to 2000, he wrestled as Fray Tormenta. But few would have known that underneath that mask
was a transvestite.
Close. Was a priest.
That's even better.
That's some Nacho Libre shit.
It actually is the inspiration to the story Nacho Libre.
That's awesome.
Incredible. I love it.
That's awesome.
All of the money he raised went to fund one orphanage that helped thousands of Mexican kids.
That is fucking awesome. We need more stories like that where people do crazy shit, but it helps kids or it helps people that need help. You know what I mean? Like, I love those stories. I fucking love those stories where somebody is like, I'm not being selfish. I'm not doing this for me. Yeah, I'm doing this at great harm to myself, but I think the benefit will outweigh the damage I do to myself. I love those types of stories.
Yeah, that brings up a point. And I am Mr. Anti-religion. I hate religion with a passion.
Same here.
But it always seems like stories like that come out of other countries and never this country.
No, because we're patient zero for prosperity gospel. You see,
yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
As Bad Religion sings, what is it, Highway Jesus or something? Have you ever heard that?
No,
I don't think I'm saying the name right. American Jesus.
Okay.
If you guys are not familiar with that song, please do listen to it. Yeah. It is a great song.
All right. And in other news?
In other news, here's some exciting news for you. Measles outbreak has surged by triple digits.
Are we surprised?
No. In fact, Canada is offering a warning for New Yorkers and anyone on the border states that it just takes one car to come across the border and spread measles, because it is, I think the contagious rate is 92% or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And this idea of
if you haven't been vaccinated.
But see, that's that's where I mean, look, I get RFK doesn't like vaccines, but this one works.
We need to
it has worked since the 1950s.
We need to bring back the Kennedy treatment.
And just for perspective, last year there was a total of 548 cases of measles in the United States. This month alone has been over 700.
Look, if people want their children to die, great. But don't tell me. Don't tell me.
All I can say is, in all heartfelt sympathy, if you are conservative and haven't had a vaccine, please go get some measles.
At least
go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think JFK's head just did that? And by proxy, do you think that RFK's head might just do that?
Do you mean explode in the back of a convertible? Is that?
Look, all I'm saying is there's no way that guy got off 3 shots in 2 seconds. I don't care what kind of Marine sniper school he went to. That's not happening.
No, it's not happening.
He's Lee Harvey.
Yeah, we learned so much from the release of those files, didn't we?
Tons.
So the thing that I find interesting is Elon's time is coming to an end. You know that, right?
Yeah, the girls are fighting.
And he'll be out of Doge completely and out of the White House completely, apparently in May.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well,
exactly.
No, there's actually a bit of a cabinet issue with that. So, like, the vast majority...
Are they cooing Elon?
They do not like him around at all.
Well,
they do not.
Why would they?
Yeah, who does?
Why would they? They hate illegal immigrants. He's an illegal immigrant. They don't like billionaire money in politics, even though they're all, getting billionaire money as politicians. He's a billionaire who's affecting elections.
Well,
he's just the right wing. He's the real right wing version of what they think George Soros is.
But here's the thing that's interesting.
If they want him out, that death knell sounded with Wisconsin.
That's exactly it. And that was the death knell for Elon when it comes to politics, I think. And I got to be honest with you, between the cuts that the government is making Trump specifically with NASA funding that he disagrees with, and then you see the effect that he's had on his company because he stuck his nose in politics, and then you see how much money he's lost because of sticking his nose in politics. I think Elon himself is smart or dumb as he may be, he at least has got to be looking at all of the fallout from his participation with Trump and going, this is not working for me.
Well, when I was at the protest, half of the signs were talking about Elon.
Right.
Like, exactly. As many signs as there were talking about Trump, there were as many talking about Elon.
I think that the funny thing is that apparently he was saying that Doge works some sort of fucking ridiculous amount of hours a week. And do you guys know what that was?
Yeah. So basically, Doge is staffed with a bunch of groiper 20-somethings. And if you guys don't know the term groiper, that's Nick Fuentes, if you've heard of him.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard the term to griper, but I know Nick.
Groiper, yeah. So that's what he calls his audience, is groipers.
Okay.
Which I guess the best way to say it is terminally online neo-Nazis that are fueled by anti-Semitism, racism in general,
and Red Bull.
and misogyny.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So they're the Doge team, basically all being groiper 20-somethings. They're working somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20 hours a day to destroy our government.
Yeah, they were saying it was like 120 hours. Elon said it was 120 hours a week, but that only leaves like just shy of 7 hours a night to sleep. So if you're only sleeping 7 hours and then everything that you do through the rest of the day is work.
That's not even including your drive to and from the office. That's not including, you're unwinding after work and you're getting ready in the morning before work. So it's probably like 4 or 5 hours for most of them.
Okay, let's go with 4. Now, show me anyone that actually can function well for any length of time on only 4 hours of sleep.
The problem is what Elon wants to do and what all of the billionaires want to do, and I do have evidence of this, and I will give it in a moment. They want to essentially strip all of the victories of labor in the 20th century. So they want to strip the weekend. They want to strip the 8-hour workday.
Well, fuck, there was a guy that worked for Elon, and his wife was giving birth, and Elon called him and was like, I need you in the office.
Yeah. And his choice was witness the birth of your child or get fired.
Right.
Well, get fired and witness the birth of your child, or don't get fired and miss that.
Exactly. That's bullshit.
Yeah. So they want the billionaire class wants to strip all of the victories of labor from the 20th century. So paid time off, family leave, 20-hour, 8-hour workday, 40-hour
things that
work
are guaranteed in the European Union.
Yeah.
I don't think people fully realize in every other country, labor actually has a lot more rights than they do in this country.
Fuck, dude. In France, people are allowed an entire month off every year. It's expected. Like most people take a summer month off.
How many federal holidays does Italy have?
I think
you get time off of work.
I don't know.
If I had to guess, it's something. So I know I saw this on that fucking documentary, but it's something like 40. Is that right?
I think it's technically 32 to 35.
Okay.
So over a month of just federal holidays.
Just federal holidays
that you're guaranteed off of work.
Paid.
How many paid? How many do you have in the United States?
For
a dozen?
for most people,
if you're lucky.
Most people, you have 3.
Well, Christmas, Thanksgiving,
and the 4th.
And the 4th of July.
0.
No, well, yeah, federally protected. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, yeah, you're right about that, I guess. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Fuck that.
You know,
how much
my evidence.
Time? How much paternity time are you legally allowed in Italy?
Oh, that's a year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a year in most of the EU.
How much paternity time legally are you allowed in the U.S.?
0. Mothers get 6 weeks, 0. I think.
Yeah, well, 0.
Mothers get 6 weeks. Fathers get nothing. Guaranteed nothing.
And
it's up to your employer.
So, see, that's the problem. You know, everyone wants more productivity, but they don't understand that you have to have the rest. You have to have the family time. You have to have the balance. You have to have the ability to...
2 things that I want to add to that. So, first of all, the evidence that I was discussing earlier, that this is not just an Elon problem, it's a billionaire problem.
Oh, it's a business problem of every flavor.
So
it is a U.S. business problem.
Yes.
If you remember a couple years back, Jeff Bezos unironically floated the idea of bringing back company towns.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And then
so
not
you
only
can
did
work
he
for the
do
company
that,
fucking store.
Not only did he do that, but Zuckerberg basically made a company town for Meta employees. I don't know if you've seen that, but
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he basically made a company town in California, in Silicon Valley. That's the model. They want to do that. Fuck, I forgot the other point that I was going to make.
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter because all these cocksuckers got to realize work-life balance creates a better product. And with that, that's an Elsie's Little Pickles.
Bring back the Mostaccioli treatment.
Luigi, where are you?
Oh, no.
That begs a question.
I don't know, but I can tell you for a fact, if billionaires died at the same rate that U.S. school children do, we'd be out of billionaires in 2 months.